The Millionaire CEO rejected 8 models, then couldn't stop thinking about a single mother delivery girl. Before we dive in, I want to know, where in the world are you watching from right now? Type your city in the comments so we can see just how far this story reaches. And when we get to the end, I dare you to rate it from 0 to 10, because this one might just break your heart. Now, settle in and enjoy the story. In the gleaming marble lobby of Parker Tower, the sharp echo of polished leather shoes played like a symphony of power. Daniel Parker, the cold, always busy CEO, bent down to pick up a fallen pen. But in that fleeting moment, his eyes caught something glittering on the necklace around a young girl's neck. His heart froze. It was the very gift he had once given to his first love. 15 years ago, a memory he had long thought buried. Suddenly, the luxurious, pristine lobby felt small, almost suffocating, filled with echoes of nostalgia and secrets long kept. Was this merely a coincidence? Or the opening of a door that could unravel the world of a billionaire CEO? Early morning in New York, pale golden sunlight filtered through the towering glass windows, spilling down onto Manhattan Brews, the cafe nestled on the ground floor of Parker Tower. The rich aroma of roasted coffee mingled with the gentle clink of cups, composing the familiar soundtrack of a bustling day. Amid the lively hum, Kate Rodriguez, 32, a single mother, moved with practiced agility in her navy blue uniform, weaving between the espresso bar and waiting customers. In a quiet corner, Sophie, her 6-year-old daughter, laughed freely as she chatted with the security guard, her clear blue eyes holding the vastness of the sky within them. The glass door swung open. Firm footsteps echoed across the marble floor. Daniel Parker, 35, CEO of Parker & Co., the man all of Wall Street watched with both awe and envy, entered, carrying an aura of cold authority and relentless focus. His eyes scanned the cafe, seemingly searching only for the cup of coffee that would start his day. And then, the world stopped. Behind the counter, those familiar brown eyes caught his, and he froze. Kate! The woman who had once given him the most beautiful summer of his life, and the wound he had never quite healed. 15 years, the span of a lifetime, yet in a single fleeting glance, all the memories crashed back like waves against the shore. Do you believe a single look can pull you back into a whole past? Share your feelings in the comments, because this journey isn't just a love story. It's the return of a memory that has never truly disappeared. Part 1. Reunited with Fate. Mornings at Parker Tower always had their own rhythm, hurried, cold, and luxurious enough to make anyone who entered feel small. Sunlight slid down the towering glass panels, reflecting onto the polished marble floor, as if it had just been meticulously cleaned. People passed by in tailored suits, the sound of leather shoes striking the floor forming a steady symphony of power. Amidst this scene, Daniel Parker, 35-year-old CEO of Parker & Co., walked briskly, phone pressed to his ear, his deep, commanding voice resonating. He was used to making decisions in seconds, used to the mix of admiration and caution in people's eyes. But this morning, amidst the rush of footsteps, a small thing made his entire world pause. His silver fountain pen, a keepsake from his old mentor, slipped from his hand and hit the marble. Daniel bent to pick it up, and in that instant, his eyes met something that made his breath catch. A little girl, around 6 years old, with soft curly brown hair and clear autumn-hued eyes, was smiling brightly at the security guard. Around her neck hung a small silver necklace, the pendant a finely engraved circle. There was no mistake. That pendant, the image from 15 years ago, flooded back. A golden afternoon on the California coast, the sound of waves, the scent of salt in the air, and the laughter of a girl with bright brown eyes. He, back then, a young, dreamy man, had nervously fastened that necklace around her neck, promising to return someday. Then let time sweep everything away. Daniel's heart raced. His mind screamed that it could only be a coincidence. But every detail of that pendant, every engraving, every line, proved otherwise. He looked at the girl for another second, and in that moment, the guilt buried for 15 years surged back, strong enough to make the usually cold CEO deaf to his own phone call. "Mom gave it to me," the little girl chirped, suddenly catching Daniel's gaze and smiling innocently, unaware that she had completely disoriented one of Manhattan's most powerful men. Daniel wanted to ask immediately, who is her mother? Why does she have that pendant? But his throat tightened, leaving him only able to slightly move his lips without words. The lavish, busy world of Parker Tower seemed to blur, leaving only the silver glint of the pendant, like an invisible hand pulling him back to an unclosed past. If an old keepsake suddenly appeared before you after 15 years, what would you do? Stay silent or step forward to find the truth? Share your thoughts in the comments. Daniel clenched the pen in his hand, his eyes still fixed on the small necklace, swinging with the girl's carefree steps. The busy, luxurious air of the Parker Tower lobby suddenly felt alien, as if he had stepped out of the high-pressure CEO world and been pulled back into a memory long asleep. The girl ran around the reception desk, chirping like a little sparrow, leaving her laughter ringing so that even some security staff laughed along. Daniel felt his chest tighten. The way her eyes sparkled when she laughed mirrored someone he once knew, someone he had loved so deeply he could never forget. He stepped closer, trying to maintain composure. "Hi," Daniel said softly. The girl stopped, looked up at him, her curls slightly messy, but her eyes shone with curiosity. "Do you want to see the drawing I made?" she offered, holding out a piece of paper, showing 3 people holding hands under the sun. Daniel froze for a moment. 3 people, a family. Before he could respond, his eyes were drawn back to the glimmering silver pendant at her chest. His heart thudded painfully. There could be no mistake. This was the only gift he had ever dared give to the girl back then. On the Santa Monica beach, he remembered every engraving, even the nervous thrill when fastening it around the neck of the girl who had made him dream of a future he never had the courage to hold on to. His voice hoarse, though he barely noticed. "This necklace, where did you get it?" The girl tilted her head, her eyes sparkling. "Mom gave it to me," she said. "It's very important." Daniel felt like he'd been struck by lightning. Mom. So this little girl's mother was the woman he had never forgotten. A flood of questions rushed through his mind. He wanted to ask her mother's name, where she was. But his hand trembled, and he could not speak. "Mom, look." The girl's excited voice rang out. Daniel turned. Behind the Manhattan Brew's coffee counter, a woman in a blue uniform leaned over to make coffee. Her hurried yet gentle demeanor so familiar that his heart nearly stopped. A few strands of her brown hair escaped her low bun, and when she looked up, he saw the eyes. The same eyes that had once made him fall head over heels. The eyes that made him believe in a love that needed no promises. Kate, 15 years. Yet at that moment, Daniel felt as if time had never passed. The entire Parker Tower lobby faded in his mind, leaving only her, the girl he had let slip away. The polished hall seemed to disappear, leaving only the pounding of his heart. He stood frozen, eyes locked on the figure behind the counter. His hand trembled slightly, fingers gripping the pen as if it were his last anchor. Kate! The name echoed in his mind like a silent call from the past. The woman who had given him the sweetest, simplest days. The one he had lost, not because of a lack of love, but because of distance, ambition, and unavoidable turns in life. Daniel didn't remember how he moved, only that he found himself close to the counter. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee mixed with a hint of vanilla. The familiar scent of mornings by the beach, when Kate would read while he sketched their dreamed future. Kate looked up, her brown eyes meeting his. In an instant, they were both frozen. Daniel felt a piercing ache in his chest. Time had not dulled her beauty. Perhaps there was a little fatigue in those eyes. Traces of sleepless nights on her skin, but all of it made her even more real, more approachable. A woman who had weathered storms, no longer the dreamy girl of her 20s. Daniel, her voice barely a whisper, like a breeze from the past. He moved his lips, wanting to speak, but his throat tightened. Finally, one word escaped. Kate. Time seemed to freeze. Other patrons chatted. The clinking of cups continued. But to the two of them, everything else blurred, leaving only the heavy silence. Sophie ran over, grabbing her mother's hand, eyes wide as she looked between them. "Mom, do you know him?" Kate flinched briefly, then squeezed her daughter's hand, avoiding Daniel's gaze. "Just an old acquaintance." The words, "old acquaintance," cut through the memories like a knife. Daniel stepped back slightly, inhaling deeply, trying to maintain the composure of a CEO. But inside, his heart wavered. The woman he had never forgotten now called him just an acquaintance. And that little girl with the pendant, could she be the missing piece of a secret he had never dared imagine? Daniel took half a step back, but his eyes could not leave Kate. Every muscle in his face tightened as if holding back a storm. He, a man famed for unshakable billion-dollar negotiations, now awkward and fumbling, like a freshman facing his first love. "An acquaintance?" he muttered, voice low, almost a whisper amidst the surrounding noise. 15 years. That's all. Kate froze for a moment, her hand stirring coffee, paused mid-motion. Her brown eyes flickered, then quickly looked down, avoiding his gaze. "You're a CEO. You have a world. And I, just a small cafe and a child to protect. We live in two different worlds." Sophie looked at her mother, then at Daniel, innocent and sincere. "Mom, why are you sad?" The child's question left both adults speechless. Daniel bent down, his deep blue eyes meeting Sophie's clear gaze. He saw a part of Kate in her, the way she smiled, the sparkle of curiosity in her eyes. A piercing truth hit him. Sophie could be Kate's child, and perhaps his own. He straightened, voice tight. "That necklace. You've kept it for 15 years. Why?" Kate looked up, eyes glistening, lips trembling as if to speak, then holding back. "Daniel, some things don't need to be spoken again. They only bring more pain." A heavy silence descended, as if even Parker Tower's lobby had stopped breathing. Daniel knew he couldn't force her, but he also couldn't pretend nothing had happened. All the pendant, Sophie, the trembling gaze, were knocking on wounds he thought he had locked away long ago. "You're right." He nodded slightly, eyes deep. But some truths, if left undiscovered, no one will find peace in their life. In that instant, Kate turned away, busying herself with customers to hide a tear that had just fallen. Daniel clenched the silver pen, a silent vow not to let this memory slip away a second time. Part 2. The Daddy Shock. Rush hour at Manhattan Brews was like a scheduled tidal wave. 5:05 p.m. The crowd poured into the cafe. The espresso machine growled. White steam fogged the glass panels, and the rich aroma of roasted coffee curled into a fragrant cloud. Light from the Parker Tower lobby spilled in, reflecting off the honeycomb tiles and painting golden streaks across the metal chair legs. Kate bent over to swap the portafilter, her wrist turning with a familiar angle. The milk foam flowing down in a thin silk ribbon. Beads of sweat dotted her temple, yet the corner of her mouth held a patient smile. At a corner table, Sophie arranged colored pencils in a rainbow, occasionally looking up to wave at the security guard like an old acquaintance. The glass door opened with a soft jingle. Daniel Parker stepped in, a navy suit hugging his broad shoulders, tie knotted perfectly, a calm composure, as if everything in the room were already exactly where he wanted it. But it wasn't until his eyes caught the silver necklace swinging at the little girl's chest that an invisible line snapped. A heartbeat missed. A memory compartment popped open. He approached the counter. Kate looked up. Their eyes met like ashes caught by the wind. Large Americano. He tried to keep his tone steady. Yes, and please, don't talk about the weather. Kate replied, half joking, half defensive, her hand tilting the milk pitcher with the ruthless precision of someone who had lived a life ruled by accuracy. Sophie saw Daniel, her eyes lighting up like she had caught a star falling low. She slipped off her chair, hugging the drawing she had just finished. 3 people holding hands, the sun overhead, and ran toward the counter. Mom, look. Her voice pure and bright. Then she looked up at Daniel for a long moment, as if measuring a missing geometric piece she had finally found at that moment. The necklace gently brushed against Daniel's vest button, a tiny sound that split the air. He froze. Kate froze. The entire cafe seemed to dim in volume. Sophie inhaled sharply, pressed her pink lips together, and then let out 2 crystalline, merciless syllables. Daddy. A ceramic cup in a woman's hand clinked against its saucer. A few heads snapped around. Phone cameras flicked on reflexively. In the corner, Margaret, the shift supervisor, frowned, her gray eyes suddenly sharp. Daniel stood still, as if nailed in place. The word daddy hung in the air, striking scattered memories from 15 years ago and piecing them together with ruthless accuracy. He looked at Sophie. The little girl raised her drawing, hands slightly trembling from excitement, but her gaze resolute, as if believing the world would soften by calling something by its proper name. Kate's face went pale. Sophie, she whispered sharply, her polite smile breaking apart. She turned to the crowd, eyes widening, whispers stringing together. Then back to her daughter, lowering her voice. No, you cannot say that. Sophie blinked in confusion. But it's him. Daniel finally exhaled, a long breath, like surfacing from the bottom of the sea. He bent down to her eye level. His blue eyes, normally sharp in the boardroom, softened, misting with something fragile. Hi, Sophie, he said gently, afraid of dropping something delicate. Can you show me your drawing? She nodded and handed over the paper. In the corner, the scrawled word, family. A surge of emotional gravity pressed on his chest. The distance between a child's wish and an adult's duty. Daniel touched the paper's edge, hand trembling, memories stacked on his fingertips. The blue sea, the scent of sunscreen, the laughter of the girl wearing this necklace. Enough, Kate. Margaret's voice cut through sharply, like a blade through stone. Customers are watching. Take the child to the back. I'll handle it. Kate replied, eyes still on Daniel, an apology lodged in her throat. For her child, for him, and for herself. Daniel looked up. Every CEO survival instinct told him to step back. squash rumors, block videos, but his heart only wanted to speak 2 words. I'm here, outside the glass. New York flowed relentlessly. Inside, the cafe seemed to pause, suspended across the glinting silver necklace, like an hourglass, just flipped. The atmosphere thickened, as if hundreds of eyes hung over Kate's shoulders. Whispers rose from the tables. What did the little girl just call him? Daddy. That's Daniel Parker, CEO of Parker Group. Oh my, what's going on? The murmurs overlapped, spreading like ripples in a pond. Someone had secretly raised a phone, filming Sophie, standing by Daniel, her innocent face unaware of the storm her mother bore. Kate turned pale, trembling, snatched the drawing from Sophie, voice choked. Sorry. Everyone. Children sometimes say nonsense. It's not true. But Daniel wouldn't let her finish. He placed his hand firmly on the counter, gaze unwavering. No, Kate, don't deny it. The cafe fell silent for a beat. The morning customers, merely grabbing coffee a few minutes ago, now seemed to witness a real-life drama. A script none could have imagined minutes before. Kate turned to Daniel, eyes burning with anger and despair. You have no right to do this in front of her. He has the right, if the truth involves him. Daniel replied, his voice not loud, but enough for everyone within 3 meters to hear. Sophie looked between the two of them, confused, her pale blue eyes shifting from her mother to Daniel and back, seemingly unable to understand why adults would hide something she considered obvious. That's my daddy. Kate bent down, holding her daughter close, whispering, Sweetheart, listen to mommy. Sometimes things aren't what we think. Sophie frowned, trying to pull her hands from her mother. But Mom, he looks like me. He has the same eyes. The innocent words pierced the solid wall Kate had built over so many years. Her eyes glistened with tears, fingers clutching her daughter's shoulders, as if to hold on to an entire world on the verge of collapse. Daniel stood there, his heart pounding. Sophie's eyes truly so much like his every little feature and expression were living proof he couldn't deny. He exhaled softly, as if finally finding the missing piece he'd lost 15 years ago. A customer stood up, half curious, half mocking. Oh, CEO drama. Right here in a cafe. New York never gets boring. Kate blushed. She wanted to scream, to whisk her child away from this place, but Daniel's hand had subtly reached out, blocking her. Like a silent promise. Kate, at least let me talk to you. Privately, not like this. The rare pleading in his voice, a voice usually so cold, made Kate's heart halt. Yet, the dozens of eyes watching them made her shame and fear surge. She held Sophie tightly and nodded. Okay, but not here. Daniel tilted his head, his eyes still fixed on her, as if afraid of losing her again. Outside the glass door, the New York morning light streamed in, illuminating the tears shimmering on Kate's face. The bustling cafe fell into a different kind of silence, the silence of, before the heavy air in the cafe dissipated, Kate had already pulled Sophie out decisively. The glass door closed behind them, leaving Daniel and the dozens of curious eyes still whispering. The morning wind of New York swept through the narrow street, carrying the blare of car horns and the scent of baked goods from the shop next door. Kate hurried on, her heels striking the pavement as if every step was an attempt to escape the resurfacing memories. Sophie trailed behind, holding tightly onto her drawing. Mom, why are we leaving? He didn't even say goodbye. The little girl's voice wavered, tinged with disappointment. Kate froze. Her heart cracked at the sight of her daughter. But her reason forced her to speak firmly. Sweetheart, there are things I will tell you. Later, not now. Daniel followed closely behind. His dark navy suit stood out among the bustling crowd. his usually sharp gaze now only burning with determination and heartbreak. He called softly, but the tone rang like a command. "Kate, stop!" She turned. For a fleeting moment, the crowded street disappeared, leaving only the two of them facing each other. A woman clutching secrets, a man desperate for truth. "I won't let you walk away again." Daniel stepped closer, his voice breaking into pieces. 15 years ago, you disappeared without a word. I believed. But today, with just one glance, I know everything has changed. "Kate, tell me, is Sophie?" Kate cut him off, her eyes flashing with both anger and fear. "Enough! Daniel, you don't understand. Your world, it's not for me, and it's certainly not for our child. No." Daniel almost shouted. "Don't decide for me. If Sophie is my daughter, I have the right to be there, to protect her, to love her. Kate, you can't erase me from her life just because of our past." Sophie looked up, her big eyes fixed on the two adults, as if waiting for an answer that could define her entire world. She touched her mother's neck and whispered, "Mom, why are you crying?" Kate choked. Hot tears fell. The crowd passed by, unaware that at this street corner, a family was standing at the threshold of love and trust. She whispered, nearly collapsing, "Daniel, if I tell you the truth, will you dare to give up everything to protect her? Or will there come a day when you leave her crying, like you left me?" The question hung in the air, forcing Daniel into silence. He had never trembled before a boardroom, before billion-dollar contracts. But in this moment, he felt smaller than ever. He took a step closer, eyes fixed on Kate. "I will not leave. Never. If Sophie is my daughter, you have to believe I will protect her, no matter the cost. Whether it's my reputation, my career, Parker Group, I swear." Kate laughed, a choked laugh more than a joyful one. "Daniel, do you even know what you just said? A Parker Group CEO, living by numbers and power, pledging to give up everything for a child. Who would believe that?" Daniel didn't hesitate. He took off his luxurious wristwatch, symbol of status, of a life the world associated with him, and slammed it down on a wooden table outside the small cafe. "I don't need them to believe. I just need you and Sophie to believe." At that moment, both Kate and Sophie froze. The little girl's eyes sparkled, seeing for the first time an adult daring to do something just to prove they belonged to her. Kate turned away, hiding the tears streaming down her face. Inside her heart, an old door trembled. All these years, she had built walls to protect Sophie from a cold, cruel world. But Daniel's voice, his eyes, that small gesture just now, all of it felt like a hammer shattering each brick. "Daniel," she trembled, "you don't understand. Some things are beyond our control. You don't know the pressure, the gossip, the people who would use Sophie against you. If this gets out," he cut her off. Voice waited, then let it out. "I've spent my life fighting for my company. Now I will fight for my family. I lost you once, Kate. I won't lose Sophie too." Sophie tugged gently at her mother's sleeve, speaking innocently, but piercing Kate's defenses. "Mom, maybe he can stay. Maybe we don't have to be alone anymore." Kate hugged her daughter, shoulders shaking. She wanted to believe, but fear was ingrained deep into her bones. The pain from years ago when Daniel left her to dive into the world of power still lingered. But today, for the first time, she saw a different Daniel, not a cold CEO, but a man desperate to reclaim his family. The wind swirled around the street. Pieces of paper fluttered at their feet. The three of them stood in a silent circle, where past, present, and future collided. Kate stood still, holding Sophie tightly. In her deep blue eyes, past and present, intertwined like a storm with no escape. Daniel waited patiently, eyes blazing, as if just one nod would make him risk the whole world. Daniel! Kate's voice wavered. I can't trust you immediately. I trusted before, and I lost everything. The pain from 15 years ago surged, tightening her chest. Long nights spent alone, enduring humiliation, loneliness, and the burden of pregnancy without anyone beside her. That moment had forged a vow, never gamble her heart on Daniel Parker again. Daniel stepped half a step closer, voice low but resolute. Then give me a chance, not to win you back, but to be with Sophie. Just 1 week, Kate, 1 week for me to prove I'm worthy. If after a week, you still think I haven't changed, I will disappear forever. Sophie widened her eyes, looking up at her mother, innocence shining with a spark of hope. Mom, please, just 1 week. The simple words cut through Kate's last defenses. Her eyes blurred, hands trembling as she stroked her daughter's hair. She couldn't resist that pure gaze, the look of a child longing for her father. Kate turned her face away, tears streaming. Okay, 1 week. But if you hurt her... Daniel, I swear, I will never forgive you. Daniel inhaled deeply, heart pounding in his chest. In his eyes, for the first time in years, there was something beyond ambition or power. Love, the love of a father who had just found his flesh and blood. He bent down, whispering to Sophie, 1 week, I promise, I won't waste it. Sophie smiled brightly, her eyes sparkling like a tiny light, piercing through thick clouds. Kate turned away, hiding her wet face, so no one could see the fierce battle raging inside her heart. In bustling Manhattan, among the glittering skyscrapers, a fragile agreement had just been made, not with ink or contracts, but with hearts. If you were Kate, after all these years of shielding your child, would you dare give Daniel a week to prove himself? Or would you close the door on the past? Share your feelings in the comments. Part 3. The Strange Proposal. Night fell over the old Queen's apartment complex, like a thin layer of mist, wrapping the chipped window frames and the lingering smell of cleaning products in the hallway. The flickering fluorescent bulb buzzed, sounding like a long sigh. Kate opened the door, her hand still gripping the strap of her canvas bag. Behind her, Sophie clutched her sketchbook tightly, her eyes still holding the excitement of the day. On the threshold, Daniel's dark navy suit cut the air in half, too polished against the warped door and the worn doormat. Come in, Kate said softly, her voice dropping. Inside was a small world of the two of them. A faded plaid, second-hand sofa, a scratched pine dining table, walls plastered with Sophie's drawings. The fridge was covered with bills. Overdue electricity, a rent increase notice, the upcoming kindergarten tuition. In one corner, the sink still held soap suds that hadn't yet been rinsed away. Sophie squeezed between them and placed her sketchbook on the table, kneeling to whisper, Mom, I finished the family drawing. She looked up at Daniel, curious but hesitant, like a small cat approaching an outstretched hand. Go play in your room for a bit, sweetie. Kate smoothed her daughter's hair, waiting until the small footsteps faded into the tiny bedroom. The door closed, leaving a silent gap between Kate and Daniel, a silence full of things left unspoken. Daniel's gaze swept the room, pausing at the rent increase, 40% notice, pinned with a heart-shaped magnet. His eyelid twitched slightly. You? Okay. In the way people get used to not being okay. Kate let out a soft laugh, then exhaled. Why are you here? Daniel, if it's just to say sorry. No. He cut her off, placing his car keys on the table as if lowering a layer of armor. I'm here to propose something. An agreement? It might sound crazy. Kate crossed her arms, tilting her head. Go on. Daniel looked straight at her, his voice low and deliberate. As if reading a clause, even he found hard to swallow. $50,000. I'll pay you to pretend to be my girlfriend for 1 month. The air shattered. The ticking of the wall clock sounded sharp, like a needle piercing the chest. Kate let out a dry, bitter laugh, her eyes flashing with anger. Who do you think I am? Daniel, some hourly actress. I think you're the only one who can save all of us from the gossip that's about to explode. Daniel didn't flinch. Sophie already called me dad in front of the cafe. The tabloids will exaggerate. Shareholders will ask questions. You'll be scrutinized. The girl will get hurt if we go public. Go public with what? A fake relationship. Kate clenched her hands, her nails leaving white streaks on her skin. Go public that you and I are dating seriously. Daniel leaned forward, lowering his voice. In return, I get time with Sophie. You get money to breathe. And most importantly, I get a chance to make things right. A flood of emotion crashed over Kate in a single beat. She saw all the days she had endured discount shopping, wrinkled bills, Sophie's fevers at night, and this morning, when her daughter had pointed at the man and uttered a word that shattered half her life, she swallowed the lump in her throat, her voice hoarse. And feelings, where do they fit in this agreement? Daniel, he paused for a few seconds. If they exist, they'll show in action. If not, at least you and Sophie will be safe. The bedroom door cracked open. Sophie peeked out, holding a sparkling pendant, like a sliver of crescent moon. Mom, can Daniel stay for hot cocoa? A small question that carried the weight of judgment. Kate turned away, hiding her wet eyes. Outside the window, the subway rattled by, shaking the glass lightly. In the small apartment, a cold proposal had collided with the softest part of her heart. The space thickened after that offer. The clock on the wall continued to tick, but to Kate, every second felt like a burden. In front of her was a number too large, $50. E00. A sum she had perhaps never seen in her account in her entire life. Behind it were piles of bills and Sophie's unfinished dreams, tethered by harsh reality. Kate pulled a chair and sat down, her hand brushing unconsciously over the tuition notice, fingers trembling. She looked up, staring straight at Daniel. Do you realize how much you've insulted me? You think money can patch up the cracks of 15 years? Daniel sat across from her, loosening his tie, exhaling like a man shedding part of his CEO mask. I know, and I know this offer will make you despise me, but I'd rather be despised by you than watch you and Sophie sink. Have you thought about it? If next week you can't pay rent, where will the two of you go? This city never spares anyone. Kate, a sharp pain twisted in her chest. Indeed, Kate had often imagined having to leave this apartment, carrying her child to a temporary shelter. She was used to bracing herself alone, but hearing Daniel speak made the bitter truth brutally clear, leaving her speechless. I don't want Sophie to grow up in a lie. Kate bit her lip. You want me to play your girlfriend. And then what? When the month ends, you go back to Parker Tower, and me and Sophie. Back to the bills, back to instant noodles for dinner. Daniel looked deep into her eyes, his voice slow but firm. No, Kate, after that month, I'll let you decide. If you want me to leave, I will, but I won't abandon Sophie without a fight. I need a chance to be with her, so she knows she has a father, a real father, in the small bedroom. Sophie giggled with her plastic doll, the innocent sound piercing Kate's heart like a knife. She knew her daughter had often asked about her father, and she also knew she would never have enough answers. Kate turned her face away, tears falling silently. Part of her wanted to shout, to refuse completely, to cling to the fragile pride she had left. But another part, the part that was a mother, trembled, at the thought that Sophie might finally have what she had been unable to give for so many years. A complete family. She whispered, her voice choked. Daniel, I don't know if I have the courage to step into this false whirlwind, but I'm also not sure I have the courage to say no. Daniel sat silently, his eyes never leaving her face. For the first time in years, he saw Kate not as the old shadow he remembered. She was a strong woman, yet also a mother in distress, and he understood that this moment would decide everything. Outside the window, the city lights flickered like millions of eyes watching. But inside that old apartment, only 3 hearts collided between money, past, and love that had never truly ended. That night, the small apartment fell into a heavy silence. Yellow dim light fell on the floor, casting shadows of Kate sitting motionless on the old sofa. In front of her, the paper Daniel left with the number $50. Zero shone like a wound slowly bleeding. Sophie slept soundly in her room, breathing evenly, hugging her teddy bear tightly. Kate quietly stepped in, gazing at her daughter's face, the delicate lashes closed, rosy cheeks, hair spilling over the pillow. Innocent enough not to know that just a few sheets of paper in her mother's hands could change her whole life. Kate sat down beside the bed, whispering, My daughter, what should I do? Should I protect you from all pain, or let you open your heart to the man who once abandoned me? Images from 15 years ago suddenly flooded back. She remembered the last night at the bus station. In the rain, the 20-year-old girl trembled, holding her suitcase, still holding a faint hope that Daniel would return, would take her hand and apologize, but he didn't come. The door to the future closed, and she had to swallow her tears and move forward alone. Since that day, Kate had never stopped holding herself up. Long extra shifts, sleepless nights, watching over a sick child, rushing to work just to pay the rent. How many times had she told herself, I don't need anyone? But now, just one look, one cold yet weighty proposal, and all the walls she had built for so long seemed to crumble. She imagined Sophie attending a private school with friends her age, wearing new dresses, not bought from a thrift store, having proper meals instead of instant noodles at the end of the month, and deeper still, having a strong man's shoulder to call Dad. The thought made Kate's heart tighten, yet swell with a faint hope. But immediately, fear rushed in. What if Daniel only saw this as a social contract? When the month ended, could Sophie handle the shock of being abandoned again? And could she, a heart once shattered, once broken, endure? Daniel turning away again, Kate held her head, tears streaming. A soft sob echoed through the apartment, mingling with the wind outside the window. Amid the tangled thoughts, she heard Daniel's words again. I need a chance to be with her, and I also need a chance to make amends. All night, Kate didn't sleep. When the first light filtered through the dusty blinds, falling on her calloused hands, she knew she was standing at the biggest crossroads of her life. Not just about money, but about the future, memories, and love. The love she once thought dead, now demanding to live again. The next morning, thin sunlight passed through the dusty glass panes, shining into the cramped room. Kate stood before the mirror, her eyes bloodshot after a sleepless night. Inside her, everything was tangled. Pride, fear, love, the responsibility of being a mother. The weight was suffocating. Sophie woke up, rubbed her eyes, and ran to hug her mother's legs. Mom, why are your eyes red? The little girl asked innocently. Kate bent down, holding her close, inhaling the sweet scent of Sophie's hair. Tears threatened to spill, but she bit her lip. Mommy just didn't sleep well, honey. In that moment, Kate realized no matter the pain, no matter the pride, She was still just a mother, and that mother was willing to give everything so that Sophie could be happy. At exactly 9 in the morning, a black car stopped in front of the old apartment. Daniel stepped out, tall in a fitted gray suit, the morning light reflecting off the luxury car's glass, making him stand out among the old buildings. Curious neighbors peeked from doors, a few glances following his every step. Kate opened the door, a kitchen cloth still in her hand. Her heart raced, but her voice was strangely calm. "You came earlier than I expected." Daniel smiled faintly. "I couldn't sleep. I wanted to hear your answer." The apartment fell silent. Sophie ran out, holding her teddy bear, shouting, "Hi, Dad." The call made Daniel's heart explode. He knelt, embracing his daughter, letting the emotions overflow. Kate watched, took a deep breath, and spoke, each word cutting through herself. "Okay, I agree. 1 month. But Daniel, remember, if you hurt Sophie, I will never forgive you. Not once more." Daniel stood, his eyes gleaming with gratitude and determination. "I promise, this time, I won't miss it." Sophie clapped her hands in delight, as carefree as sunshine breaking through cloudy skies. But Kate knew this decision wouldn't just change 1 month. It could change their whole lives. And looking into Daniel's eyes, a mix of a CEO's pride and a man's genuine longing, she understood that the real game was only just beginning. That afternoon, Daniel's sleek black limousine stopped in front of Parker Tower, a towering skyscraper piercing the clouds, a symbol of power and status in glamorous New York. Kate sat in the back seat, unconsciously gripping her skirt, heart pounding as if to break through her chest. Beside her, Sophie pressed her face against the glass, eyes wide with excitement. "Mommy, it's so tall. Does Daddy work up there?" Daniel chuckled softly, glancing at Kate. "Not just work. That tower is my world." The words made Kate shiver. For years, his world was a place she could never belong, and now she was about to step into it. Not as herself, but as a fake girlfriend. As soon as they entered the lobby, all eyes turned to them. Light from the crystal ceiling reflected off the marble floor, making every step. Kate and Sophie took the center of attention. Employees in sharp suits whispered. A few secretaries covered their mouths with smiles, and wealthy investors raised eyebrows. Among them, old Jameson, a notoriously harsh shareholder, squinted at Kate from head to toe, then turned to Daniel with a smirk. "Ah, Mr. Carter, finally, you bring a lady along. But not from our world, right?" The atmosphere froze. Kate stiffened, her hand instinctively reaching for Sophie, holding her close. In that moment, all memories of scornful looks from the past surged back, stabbing her chest. Daniel was silent for a moment, then stepped forward, wrapping a protective arm lightly around Kate, his voice echoing through the grand lobby. "She's not from your world, Jameson. She's from mine. And from today, she belongs right here." The lobby erupted in whispers. Kate was stunned. Her heart raced, unsure if it was from his public declaration or the warmth of his arm on her shoulder. In the glass elevator to the 50th floor, Kate still struggled to breathe. She looked directly at him. "Daniel, what did you just do?" "I'm not yours. This is just an arrangement." Daniel turned, his gaze serious but slightly trembling. "I know, but if I don't protect you from the start, they will crush you. And Kate, this time, I won't let that happen." The elevator doors opened to a conference room with floor-to-ceiling glass, offering a panoramic view of New York. Kate felt small, lost, but in Sophie's eyes, shining, full of belief that her mother was a princess stepping into a castle. Kate instinctively straightened her back, even as just a fake girlfriend. In that moment, she knew her fate had truly changed. If you were Kate, seeing the one who once broke your heart now publicly defend you in front of the world of wealth and power? Would it feel like a new wound or a fresh beginning? Share your thoughts in the comments. Part 4. An Unwanted Cohabitation. The private elevator doors slid open, leading straight into Daniel Carter's penthouse, a space so luxurious that Kate froze in place. The ceiling shimmered with crystal chandeliers, and massive glass windows offered a panoramic view of Manhattan glowing in the evening light. Every wall displayed abstract paintings by renowned artists, and the polished wooden floors reflected every step they took. Sophie was the first to break the silence. She dashed inside, eyes sparkling as if she had stepped into a fairy tale world. "Mommy, look, it's like a castle in the sky." Her voice echoed across the vast space. Kate forced a smile, her hand clutching the strap of her bag. Inside, she felt a mix of awe and pain. 15 years ago, she had imagined building a home with Daniel. But she never thought the gulf of wealth and status would turn into such an abyss. Daniel stood still, watching Sophie, his eyes lighting up with a rare warmth. Not the aura of power usually seen in boardrooms, but the gentleness of a man recognizing family even in a cold, imposing space. He spoke softly, his voice rich and warm. "She's just like you, Kate." That excitement of discovering a new world. Kate turned to him, her eyes softening. "But Daniel, for me, this isn't real. This is just a 1-month contract." His words hit like a splash of cold water. Daniel pressed his lips together and nodded slightly, but in his eyes, there was an undeniable determination. While the two adults remained silent, Sophie had already begun her exploration. She ran from the living room to the kitchen, from the bedrooms to the balcony, squealing like a little bird. "Wow, a piano. Can I play this? Mommy, look at the swimming pool on the roof. Is this my room? It's bigger than our whole apartment." Kate chased after her, half worried Sophie might break something expensive, half laughing at her daughter's innocence. At one moment, Sophie climbed onto Daniel's high-end leather swivel chair in his office, sat upright like a little CEO, and banged her hands on the desk. "Okay, I'm the boss now." Daniel laughed out loud, a rare, natural laugh that even caught Kate by surprise. In his eyes, Sophie, sitting in that chair, felt like a small miracle. A room once filled only with reports and tension now had a tiny life of its own, dissolving the coldness. Kate stood in the doorway, silently watching. In that moment, she felt her heart soften. Perhaps, despite a past full of hurt, her daughter had brought a new breath into this space, something Daniel himself needed. That evening, golden light spilled over the modern kitchen, all surfaces gleaming with granite, so polished, Kate felt like she had stepped into a 5-star restaurant rather than a family kitchen. Sophie, still full of excitement, rummaged through every drawer, eyes sparkling. "Mommy, look, there are so many buttons. Can I press one?" Kate quickly intervened, panicking. "No, Sophie, don't press anything. This isn't our kitchen." But it was already too late. The girl had accidentally pressed the electronic control panel, and within seconds, the automatic oven turned on, while the touch faucet gushed water. Kate jumped back, flustered, her hands fumbling to shut everything off. At that moment, Daniel stepped out from his office, his tie loosened, white shirt sleeves rolled up. He looked at the chaotic scene before him. Kate both embarrassed and hurried, Sophie clutching her stomach laughing, and he laughed out loud, a genuine laugh that instantly dissolved the tension. Kate blushed and spun around. "You can still laugh. She's ruining your kitchen." Daniel stepped forward, gently touched the touch screen, and everything immediately went off. He tilted his head toward Kate, a half smile on his lips. "Kate, Did you forget? I'm the CEO of Parker Group, but here I still know how to turn off a stove. The seemingly simple statement made Kate freeze. In his eyes, there was no longer the arrogance of a wealthy man, but a strange gentleness and closeness. Sophie, however, paid no attention, hopping down from the chair, excitedly saying, "I'm hungry. Can we cook something together?" The innocent request made the two adults look at each other. Kate wanted to refuse. She knew Daniel had never touched anything in the kitchen. But then, seeing her daughter's bright eyes, she couldn't. "All right," Kate sighed, smiling. "We'll make spaghetti." A while later, the kitchen scene had completely changed. Sophie, standing on a tall chair, her hands covered in flour, Kate stirring the rich red tomato sauce in the pan, and Daniel, the CEO, who once only held pens to sign million-dollar deals, awkwardly chopping onions, tears streaming from his eyes. "How can you cry over onions?" Kate covered her mouth, laughing. For the first time in years, feeling completely at ease around him, Daniel glared at her, trying to maintain a stern look, which only made Sophie laugh hysterically. "Daddy's crying." "Mommy, look, Daddy's crying." The whole kitchen rang with laughter. In that moment, all pressure and the heavy past seemed to vanish. Only a warm kitchen remained, a family that seemed impossible, yet now clearly existed before their eyes. Kate looked at the scene, her heart tightening. Could this be the dream she had always wanted? A simple dinner, yet full of love. The long dining table was covered with a pristine white cloth, crystal glasses reflecting the soft yellow light, the freshly cooked spaghetti still steaming. Kate arranged a plate for Sophie, still feeling slightly strange, sitting at a table once reserved for luxurious high society parties. But now, instead of champagne and influential guests, there were only 3 people: herself, Sophie, and Daniel. Sophie sniffed the aroma and exclaimed, "Smells so good. This is the best dinner ever." Kate laughed. "Everything you say is the best ever." Daniel sat opposite them, resting his elbows on the table, eyes fixed on Kate and Sophie. A feeling he had never known stirred in him. Peace. Not the applause in boardrooms, not the praises after each deal, but the quiet of a small home where children's laughter mingled with the smell of simple food. "Here you go." "Sweetie!" Kate placed a plate in front of Sophie, her gentle gaze bright under the lights. Daniel watched silently, then quietly said, "I don't remember the last time I had a proper dinner." Kate paused. She didn't look at him, just scooped more pasta, her voice low. "Maybe because you were too busy to know what a home-cooked meal is." Her words were sharp, but couldn't hide the sadness. Daniel pressed his lips together, not replying, for he knew he had missed too much. The meal continued, with the soft clinking of cutlery and Sophie chattering about school. She bit a long strand of pasta and laughed. "Mommy, Daddy, this is a real family dinner, right?" The air froze. Kate choked, nearly dropping her fork. Daniel remained motionless, his eyes fixed on the child, the innocence untainted by adult pain. "Family dinner," Sophie repeated, as if it were the most natural thing. "We should do this every night." Kate turned away, trying to hide the tears welling at the corners of her eyes. She didn't want Sophie to see, but Daniel saw everything. Every shiver in her shoulders, every sharp breath. His heart ached, both for the child and for the woman before him, the one who had carried the whole world alone for so many years. He gently put down his fork, his voice low. "Maybe it should be like this." Kate looked up, meeting his eyes. In those deep blue eyes, she saw another light, not the aura of a CEO, but a true longing. Yet she didn't dare believe. She didn't dare give her heart again. Sophie remained innocent, unaware that a single naive statement had thrown the two adults into an emotional storm. After dinner, Sophie remained eager to explore. Her small feet pattered across the shiny wooden floor as she opened doors, her eyes sparkling as if she had entered a modern castle. "Mommy, look, this room is huge," Sophie shouted as she pushed open the master bedroom door. Kate panicked. "Sophie, don't go in. That's Daniel's room." But it was too late. The girl dashed in, leaping onto the huge bed that could easily fit 3 people. She bounced on the luxurious mattress, laughing as if in an amusement park. Daniel stood at the doorway, arms crossed, lips curving slightly. The nightlight illuminated his face, giving him an expression both gentle and mysterious. "Seems like someone has already claimed my room," he said. Kate blushed furiously, rushing to lift her daughter down. "Sophie, you can't. This isn't a place to play." "But the bed is so soft." "Mommy," Sophie pouted, then turned to Daniel. "Can we stay here tonight? Like a sleepover?" The innocent question left Kate stunned. She froze, her arms still around her child. Daniel's eyes flickered, a glint piercing straight into her heart. "Sleepover," he repeated, his voice low, carrying a layer of indescribable emotion. "Well, maybe it's not so bad." Kate quickly turned to look at him, snapping sharply to hide her embarrassment. "Daniel, don't give in to her. This is just a child's game." He didn't answer, only stepped into the room, standing opposite Kate. The distance between them was so close that Kate could feel his breath, the familiar warm scent of his cologne, washing over her like a wave, engulfing her in memories. "Are you afraid of anything, Kate?" he asked softly, his deep blue eyes locked onto hers. Kate bit her lip, looking away. "I'm not afraid. I just don't want Sophie to get false hopes." Daniel was silent for a few seconds, then suddenly bent down to straighten the blanket Sophie was pulling. In that simple act, Kate saw something she had never believed possible. Daniel, cold to the world, could be this gentle. Sophie yawned, then snuggled between them, her drowsy voice murmuring, "Good night, Mommy." "Good night, Daddy." Kate went still. Daniel froze. No one spoke anymore, only the even rhythm of Sophie's breathing as she drifted to sleep. The 2 adults stood on either side of the bed, their eyes meeting in the dim light. An invisible thread stretched between them, both distant and unbearably close. Night fell over the city. From the high floor of the penthouse, the lights of Manhattan spread out like an artificial sea of stars, glittering yet distant. The night wind carried a hint of chill, gently swaying the thin curtains. Daniel stood alone on the balcony, holding a glass of wine, his gaze fixed on the traffic below. In that quiet moment, he didn't look like a powerful billionaire CEO, but a lonely man, lost among the things he once desired. The glass door slid quietly. Kate stepped out, wearing a thin cardigan. She was slightly startled to see him alone under the pale moonlight. "You're not asleep yet?" she asked softly, as if afraid to disturb the silence. Daniel turned, slightly surprised, then smiled faintly. "I'm used to it. Nights like this, so quiet, they make you remember too much." Kate stepped closer, standing a few paces from him. Both remained silent for a long moment, only the distant car sounds echoing. Then Daniel spoke in a low voice, carrying a hint of bitterness. "Do you ever think, if 15 years ago I hadn't left, things would be different today?" Kate froze, her heart twisted with memories. Youthful mistakes, unanswered letters, and the years she had carried her pregnancy alone in the cold winter. She took a deep breath and replied, her voice hoarse, "I've thought many times, but Daniel, life has no what ifs, only choices and consequences." His eyes darkened, his hand gripping the glass of wine. He turned to her, his gaze revealing a pain he could not hide. I was wrong. Wrong for choosing career over love. And now, every time Sophie calls me Dad, I'm happy, but I also feel undeserving. Here's the English translation of your text. Part 5. A challenging gala night. Tonight, the Plaza Hotel shone like a giant diamond in the heart of Manhattan. Crystal chandeliers sparkled, illuminating the red-carpeted stairs, where glamorous gowns and tailored tuxedos mingled. The sound of violins blended with clinking crystal glasses, creating an opulent symphony. Kate froze at the entrance of the grand hall, her hand unconsciously clutching her small clutch. She had never stepped into this world, a place where everyone walked with the confidence of being on stage, where every glance could cut through a fragile heart. Beside her, Daniel, in a perfectly fitted black tuxedo with a midnight blue silk tie, extended his hand. His deep, steady voice resonated. Don't worry, just remember, tonight you are the only woman I want to accompany. Hesitant, Kate placed her hand on his arm. A strange electricity ran down her spine. For a moment, all surrounding noise seemed to blur, leaving only the sound of her racing heartbeat. But then, curious eyes immediately fell upon them as they stepped inside. Whispers echoed from the corners of the hall. Who is she? I've never seen her on the social list. A plain face. How could she walk beside Daniel Parker? Kate swallowed hard. Under the crystal lights, she felt like a stranger lost in someone else's dream. Yet Daniel maintained a steady stride, holding her hand so firmly that, even if she wanted, she couldn't pull away. Across the room, Veronica, in a fiery red gown, like a proud flame, stared at them. Her lips curved into a challenging smile, her eyes betraying undeniable disdain. Kate inhaled deeply, a foreboding feeling stirring inside her. If you were Kate, stepping into this luxurious room under hundreds of scrutinizing eyes, would you hold your head high to prove yourself worthy, or feel lost and want to turn away? Share your feelings in comment binomishenens. Nenchen, the cheer can comment show. Yoi respond, gesabis gahei kribraarn. The music swelled, and everyone twirled gracefully in a luxurious waltz. Kate bent slightly to take a glass of champagne from a waiter's tray, trying to maintain her composure. This world was foreign, yet in that moment, she told herself, I can stand here just for one night. At that moment, Veronica approached. Her daringly slit red dress seemed to set the entire room ablaze. Her perfect face and cold, sharp smile were intimidating. Danielle, Veronica called sweetly, glancing at Kate with a casual, dismissive tone. Oh, and this must be a new guest. Daniel tilted his head, his gaze icy. Veronica, this is Kate, my companion for tonight. A single short sentence, yet it silenced the space for half a beat. All eyes immediately turned to Kate. In that instant, she felt completely exposed, every thread of her modest gown scrutinized to the extreme. Veronica smiled insincerely, then suddenly moved closer. A seemingly casual touch along the hem of Kate's dress produced a sharp snip in an instant. The pale blue silk of Kate's gown had a small tear at the hem. The hall seemed to hold its breath. A few whispers erupted again, this time sharper. Oh my! A ripped dress at a gala. So embarrassing. She clearly doesn't know the standards here. Kate froze, her face burning. Her mind spun, her hands gripping the champagne glass so tightly it nearly slipped. Daniel immediately stepped forward, his eyes flashing rare anger. Veronica. His voice deepened, so cold, the air seemed to thicken. But before the situation could explode, Kate suddenly smiled softly. She took a deep breath, then gently placed the glass on a nearby table. From her small clutch, she pulled out a delicate silk scarf and skillfully wrapped it around the torn hem. The quick, graceful movement transformed the accident into an impromptu fashion statement. The mocking laughter abruptly ceased. Some curious glances turned into surprise, even admiration. Wow, actually, it looks even more stylish, whispered a woman nearby. Veronica froze, her smile stiffening. Clearly, her plan to humiliate had backfired. Daniel glanced at Kate, his gaze softening. In that moment, he saw in her not just an ordinary girl, but a woman with poise, able to stand tall under the harshest scrutiny. Kate lifted her head, offering a gentle smile. Her heart still raced, but for the first time that evening, she no longer felt out of place. After the dramatic rescue of her torn dress, the room resumed its whirl of music and light. But for Daniel, the gala's sparkling pride had lost its sweetness. He could clearly see Kate's hands trembling slightly beneath her calm smile. Without hesitation, Daniel leaned close and whispered, "Let's step outside for a bit. You need some fresh air." Kate blinked in surprise, but his determined gaze made her nod. He gently took her hand, guiding her through the crowd, absorbed in dancing. Despite a few curious stares following them, the plaza balcony opened before them, wide and cool. Moonlight stretched over Central Park in the distance, shimmering like a soft silk ribbon. The music inside faded, replaced by the night breeze, gently brushing Kate's bare shoulders. She leaned against the railing, fingers still unconsciously touching the scarf wrapped around her dress. Daniel remained silent for a long moment, quietly watching her face in the moonlight. "You're stronger than you think, Kate," he said, his voice deep and warm, yet resolute. "Not everyone can hold their head high in a room full of people waiting to see them fall." Kate smiled softly, her eyes glistening. "You don't understand, Daniel. For you, this is just another party, another night. For me, it's a whole world I never imagined entering. I'm just a waitress, a single mom. I don't belong here." Daniel stepped closer, his warm hand gently covering hers. Still trembling, he looked straight into her eyes, his words slow and deliberate. "You're wrong. You're the one who gives this place meaning, not them." At that moment, the night wind seemed to stop. Kate found herself gazing deeply into Daniel's eyes, once distant, now filled with sincerity, making her heart ache. A small sound from inside pulled them back to reality. The gala still awaited them, but amid all the pressure and glamour, the moment on the balcony, just the two of them under the moon, felt like a rare pause, enough to imprint on their hearts. What do you think about Daniel's actions? If it were you, hurt in front of a crowd, would you want someone you trust to pull you out, or stand firm on your own? Share your thoughts in the comments. The violin music drifted them back to the main hall. The balcony doors closed softly, moonlight fading behind the dazzling crystal lights. The Plaza Hotel still glittered extravagantly, but Kate's steps slowed, her heart unsettled. She had promised herself this would be just a temporary role alongside Daniel. Yet now, her heart raced at a glance, a whispered word. As they entered, curious eyes immediately turned toward them. Whispers arose. "That's the girl with the torn dress. She doesn't look intimidated at all." Kate felt her cheeks flush. She tried to pull back, but Daniel's hand suddenly gripped hers, firmly and decisively. In that instant, the room seemed to pause. Daniel Parker, the cold, untouchable CEO, was publicly holding the hand of an ordinary woman, as if declaring to the world, "She belongs to me." Veronica, from across the hall, eyes reddening, saw her forced smile crumble. Unable to hide her anger, she marched forward, heels pounding the marble floor like hammers. "Daniel," she hissed through gritted teeth, still attempting to appear graceful, "you intend to Make this public, in front of all these partners and shareholders. Daniel turned to her, eyes sharp as blades. I'm not making it public. I'm simply holding the hand of the woman I chose to come with, and that's nobody's business but mine. His words fell like metallic chimes, resolute and final. The murmurs in the hall swelled like waves, but this time not just with ridicule. Many gazes quietly met Kate's with newfound respect, a normal woman capable of making Daniel Parker break his icy norms. Kate froze. She wanted to let go, to avoid all those eyes. But Daniel's hand was warm, firm, like a tether, holding her upright in the sea of people. In that instant, she realized he wasn't just protecting her dignity, he was giving her a strength she didn't even know she had. Veronica gripped her champagne glass so tightly that it spilled. Daniel paid no mind. He leaned close, speaking only for Kate. Don't be afraid. From now on, no one can bring you down. Kate trembled. Amidst music and stares, it felt as if the world had shrunk to just the two of them. The music played on, but the atmosphere had shifted to an electrifying tension. Veronica, with her sharp smile, raised her glass as if to toast, but her voice dripped with sarcasm. How fascinating. Daniel, who would have guessed? The famous CEO chooses to accompany a waitress, perhaps a new charitable campaign. The hall held its breath. Eyes turned to Kate, some pitying, some curious, others subtly nodding at Veronica's words. Kate froze. Her lips quivered, heart pounding. A wave of humiliation surged like an undercurrent, threatening to overwhelm her. Before she could respond, Daniel stepped forward, pulling her close, head held high. His voice echoed through the vast hall. Veronica, I think you're mistaken. I don't need to flaunt or donate to prove my worth. The woman beside me, Kate, taught me something that all money and power cannot: resilience and compassion. And if this is a charity, then I am the luckiest to be accepted by her. A ripple of astonishment spread through the crowd. Applause began hesitantly, then swelled into a thunderous ovation, drowning out Veronica's sharp intake of breath. Kate stared at Daniel in disbelief. Tears welled, and she bit her lip to hold them back. In his eyes, she saw not only protection, but pride, as if she were the most precious thing he wanted the world to witness. Veronica, unable to bear her embarrassment, slammed her glass down, spilling liquid over the white cloth. Her face twisted with rage, yet she knew she had lost at her own game. Daniel turned to Kate, lowering his voice, just for her. I mean it, Kate. From now on, anyone who tries to hurt you will have to go through me first. Kate couldn't hold back anymore. A tear slid down her cheek, but this time, it was no longer from shame. It was from being moved, being protected, being valued. Amidst the lingering applause, Kate squeezed Daniel's hand, and under the plaza's dazzling lights, she realized destiny had truly opened a new chapter in her life. What do you think about how Daniel confronted public humiliation? If it were you, would you stay silent or stand up to defend the person you love right in front of everyone? Share your thoughts in the comments. Part 6, The Media Storm. The next morning, pale golden sunlight streamed through the wide windows of the penthouse, reflecting off the polished marble floors. But instead of a peaceful morning, Kate was awakened by the relentless ringing of her phone and the continuous flood of messages appearing on the screen. Kate, is that you? A familiar female voice from her past echoed through the line. News about you is all over the internet. The press is digging into everything. You be careful. Panic surged through Kate. She rushed to the laptop on the dining table and opened the news site. There it was, right in bold headlines, the mysterious woman beside CEO Daniel Parker. A less than pleasant past. Kate's heart clenched painfully. The article listed every detail of her previous life, the cafe where she worked, her old shabby apartment, even the debts she had taken to pay for her mother's medical bills. Private matters she thought only she knew were now exposed to millions of prying eyes. Sophie, clutching her doll, ran over curiously. "Mom, why are your and Mr. Daniel's pictures on TV?" Kate quickly pulled her daughter into her arms, shielding the screen. Her voice trembled. "It's nothing, Sophie. It's just grown-ups saying things that aren't true." But her heart raced with anxiety. She wasn't worried for herself. She had grown used to judgmental glances, but Sophie was different. Her 6-year-old daughter was pure and innocent. Kate could not bear the thought of Sophie being teased or shunned because of online rumors. At that moment, the elevator doors opened. Daniel walked in, his face serious. He had returned early from a meeting and had already seen the news. Just a glance at Kate told him how shaken she was. "Kate," he said, his voice deep and firm, "I know what the press is doing. You don't have to face this alone. I'll take care of it." Kate shook her head, tears streaming down her face. "You don't understand. Daniel, I'm not afraid for myself. I'm just afraid Sophie will get hurt. She doesn't deserve any of this." In that moment, Daniel saw the deepest fear reflected in Kate's eyes. He stepped closer, placing his hand on her shoulder, his gaze filled with determination. "I promise, no one will be allowed to hurt her. I will protect both of you." But deep inside, Kate's anxiety churned. Could she truly believe that a billionaire CEO, constantly chased by the media and flashing cameras, could bring the peace she and her daughter needed? By noon, the light slanted across the penthouse windows, illuminating Daniel in a dark suit as he approached the dining table, holding the morning newspapers, the glaring red headlines, the candid shots of Kate at the cafe, Sophie's innocent smile at the park, all laid bare before him like an open wound. He slammed the stack of newspapers on the table, his voice restrained. "Kate, I can't let them defame you and Sophie like this. I will hold a press conference. I will set the record straight." Kate looked up, her face pale. "Daniel, you don't understand. I never wanted my life exposed. I can handle it. But Sophie cannot. She's only 6. If you go public, tomorrow the whole world will know her name, her face. I can't let my daughter grow up under those scrutinizing eyes." Daniel clenched his fists, his eyes flashing with internal struggle. He wanted to protect her, to use his CEO power to crush the rumors. But he also understood, for Kate, protection wasn't enough. It could strip away the fragile veil she had built around her life. In the corner, Sophie played innocently with her Legos, her laughter sounding strangely out of place in the tense atmosphere. Kate looked at her, tears welling up, whispering, "I just want her to have a normal childhood. No scandals, no cameras, no whispers behind her back." Daniel stepped closer, placing his hand on her shoulder, his voice low, trembling slightly. "Kate, do you trust me? I swear with everything I have, I won't let Sophie suffer any harm. But if we stay silent, the media will keep spinning stories. Do you think they'll stop on their own?" Kate pulled away, turning her back. Her voice choked. "That's why I have to leave. Daniel, if I stay here, I'll drag you and Sophie into a spiral with no way out." The room fell into a suffocating silence. Daniel watched Kate's retreating figure, realizing that love, unspoken and unclaimed, had already been pushed into a brutal crossroads. That afternoon, the New York sky darkened, clouds piling up, as if signaling an impending storm. Kate had just tucked Sophie in for her nap when the TV in the living room flickered on. The logo of the nation's largest news channel appeared, and then Daniel Parker's face filled the screen. He sat in a luxurious hall, flash bulbs popping relentlessly. Reporters jostled, microphones held high, no smile. No usual cold composure. Daniel sat upright, his eyes sharp, yet filled with determination. There are rumors that CEO Parker is dating an ordinary woman and hiding a child. Can you confirm this? A reporter pressed. In that moment, Kate held her breath. Daniel inhaled deeply and spoke firmly. Yes, her name is Kate Rodriguez, and the little girl beside her. Sophie is a child I will protect, no matter what. They are not just a part of my life. They are everything. The hall erupted. Camera shutters clicked like falling rain. Some were shocked, others angry, while some smiled cunningly. Kate held Sophie tightly, tears streaming. She never imagined that Daniel, the man who always prioritized his perfect CEO image, would publicly defy the media to stand by her side. But just as the flood of emotion surged, the scrolling text below the live broadcast sent chills down Kate's spine. Parker & Co. Shares dropped 3% following unexpected CEO announcement. The wave of public opinion had begun. Some called Daniel foolish for risking his polished CEO image. Others praised him for choosing love. But all eyes now turned to Kate, the ordinary woman at the center of the storm. Kate's phone buzzed incessantly. Messages from unknown numbers. Vicious comments, even insults aimed at Sophie. Each line felt like a knife to her heart. She whispered, voice trembling, Daniel, you've given me love. But you've also placed me and my daughter right in the eye of the storm. In the lavish penthouse, rain began to pour against the windows. Kate felt like a small bird caught in the middle of a tempest, her fragile wings unsure if they could hold. The next morning, solitary, New York sunlight filtered through thick curtains. But inside the penthouse, the air remained tense. Kate sat on the sofa, hands shaking as she held her phone. The screen was filled with attacking comments, malicious words aimed at her and Sophie. Some people called her manipulative, while others sarcastically labeled her the woman who ruined Daniel Parker's career. Sophie stood beside her, her clear eyes filled with surprise and worry. Mom, why is everyone saying bad things about us? She asked, her voice so small it made Kate's throat tighten. Kate took a deep breath, struggling not to cry. Every word, every sentence felt like a blade cutting through her heart. She held Sophie tightly, whispering to herself, I have to be strong. For her. Yet the anxiety didn't ease. She felt each beat of her own heart quicken, realizing that the whole world outside was watching them. The penthouse door opened softly, and Daniel stepped in. His navy blue suit was perfect, his gaze sharp yet full of concern. He looked at Kate and Sophie, then lowered his voice. Are you okay? Kate looked up, her eyes glistening with tears. You know, everyone is talking about us, she murmured. Daniel moved closer, gently embracing both mother and daughter. The warmth of his body felt like an invisible shield, temporarily protecting them from the storm of public opinion. Let them say what they want, Daniel said, his voice deep, warm, and resolute. But I won't let anyone hurt you or Sophie. No one. Kate looked at him, feeling a mix of relief and worry. She wondered if this love was strong enough to withstand the judgment of the entire world. At that moment, Sophie ran to the window, holding up her phone. Dad, I want to see what people are commenting, but I'm scared too. Daniel smiled and gently ruffled her hair. We'll face it step by step. No one stands alone here. In the lavish penthouse, sunlight reflected off golden surfaces, creating a scene both luxurious and warm. Yet beneath the glitter, an invisible battle raged between love and public opinion, between protection and relentless pressure. Kate inhaled deeply, knowing she had to stand firm not just for herself, but for Sophie. And Daniel, the man who had once only known how to lead a business with power and strategy, was now learning how to fight for something else, the heart As the afternoon waned, sunlight, fading and stretching long shadows across the sparkling penthouse floor, Kate still held Sophie on the sofa, her eyes glued to the phone screen. Negative comments kept flooding in. But now, with Daniel beside her, she felt a new strength, the power to face the storm of public scrutiny. Daniel placed a hand on Kate's shoulder, his voice low and warm. We cannot control what others say, but we can control how we respond. We have each other. That's what matters most. Sophie looked up, her eyes shining, the light reflecting like a reminder that every effort to protect, every sacrifice was worth it. Dad, Mom, we'll be okay, right? Kate smiled, though her eyes were still wet. Yes, we'll be okay, as long as we're together. Daniel bent down, lightly kissed Sophie's forehead, then gently held Kate's hand. The three of them stood in the luxurious penthouse, amid light sparkling off the high-end glass, yet feeling warm as if it were truly their first home. Sighs, tears, and fleeting fears melted into a quiet peace. Then Daniel's phone rang. A reporter was calling, asking about the rumors concerning Kate. Daniel answered, took a deep breath, and spoke firmly. She is my daughter's mother. We will not respond to baseless rumors. My family does not owe anyone an explanation. Kate felt a mix of relief and deep emotion. Daniel's love and protection were no longer just CEO-level rhetoric in business reports. They were real actions, a presence she couldn't imagine being without. Sophie jumped up and hugged Daniel tightly, shouting, Dad, you're my hero. Kate joined in, hugging him just as tightly, a moment of calm where every outside pressure vanished. The penthouse remained grand, but now it was a sanctuary for hearts, family, and love that no one could shake. In the warm silence, Kate whispered into Daniel's ear, thank you for not abandoning us, for giving Sophie and me a family. Daniel smiled, eyes glinting with the late afternoon sun, his voice deep. No thanks are needed. This is where we belong, and no one can take that away. If you were in Kate's or Daniel's position, what would you do when love and family are challenged by the entire world? Do you have the courage to stand up and protect those you love? Share your thoughts in the comments and tell us what you would do in that moment. Part 7. Past and Danger. Daniel's penthouse was silent under the soft yellow lights, reflecting on the polished wooden floor like glass. New York City stretched below, a sea of twinkling lights. But inside the apartment, the air was so thick it felt like it could be cut with a knife. Kate had just placed Sophie on the bed. The little girl's breathing was steady, the only safe heartbeat amidst the storm Kate could feel swirling around her. Daniel walked to the window, looking out over the city, his hand gripping Kate's arm. He sensed the tension etched in every line of her face. They haven't let up, have they? He asked, his voice low, almost a whisper, careful not to shatter this rare moment of peace. Before Kate could respond, the doorbell rang. Daniel furrowed his brow, moving to the door and opening it. A man stood there cold-eyed, with a forced yet authoritative smile. Ricardo, the complicated figure from Kate's past, was now standing directly before her, hands in his pockets, radiating defiance. Late night. Kate, I think it's time we talked about Sophie, Ricardo said, his voice icy as steel. Each word cut through the fragile atmosphere of the penthouse. Kate stepped back, heart racing, fear flickering in her eyes, but her resolve intact. Ricardo, you cannot enter this home. This is my family, she said, her voice trembling, but determined. Daniel stepped forward, blocking Ricardo, his gaze blazing. Leave now, not a single step further. If you want to discuss anything, it will be through the law, not through threats or harassment. Ricardo smirked, but Daniel caught a fleeting shadow of fear in his eyes. Law? We both know how easily it can be bought. The girl is mine, and I will reclaim my rights. Kate felt her heart shatter. Sophie was sleeping peacefully, unaware that a storm of danger threatened her small, serene world. She turned to Daniel, voice quivering but desperate. Daniel, you have to protect us, right? Daniel bent down, placing a hand on her shoulder, eyes firm yet warm. You're not alone. I will never let anyone harm you or Sophie. We face this together. Ricardo drew a long breath, as if testing their inner strength, then turned away coldly. But before leaving the hall, he looked back, voice low and menacing. This isn't over, Kate. I'll be back. As Ricardo's footsteps faded, Daniel wrapped his arms around Kate and Sophie, feeling the tiny heartbeat of his daughter against his chest. The three of them stood in the luxurious penthouse, which now symbolized not just wealth, but a fortress protecting love, family, and safety. Daniel locked the windows and drew the heavy curtains, turning the penthouse into a temporary fortress where only he, Kate, and Sophie existed. Yet even within this safe space, anxiety lingered, unrelenting. Kate stood in the living room, eyes red, clutching Sophie's dress, feeling both vulnerable and strong at once. What do we do now? Kate asked, her voice fragmented, as though speaking fully might unleash tears she was holding back. Daniel stepped closer, placing a hand under her chin, lifting her gaze to meet his. We don't panic. No one will take away what matters most. But you need to trust me and Sophie too. His voice was low, each word dripping with a power that steadied Kate's racing heart. Ricardo was gone from the hallway, but his threat remained a ghost tracking their every breath. Daniel knew this wasn't an idle warning. He'll do everything to tear us apart. We need to be ready for anything. Kate drew a deep breath, feeling Sophie's faint heartbeat against her shoulder. She knew she had to make a choice, confront the fragments of a past she tried to forget, or protect her daughter's present and future. I won't let him ruin her life. I'm scared, but I will fight, she said. Daniel looked at her with admiration and tenderness. He gently grasped her hand, warmth radiating strength. We face everything together. No one can hurt Sophie or you while I'm standing here. Kate hesitated for a moment, then nodded. Together, she said, voice trembling but resolute. Sophie slept peacefully in her bed, unaware that she was the center of a battle of emotion, law, and power that her parents were preparing to face. Daniel pulled out his phone, cold light reflecting off his serious face. He texted their legal team to prepare documents and called their private security. The penthouse had now become a command center, every move carefully calculated. Yet amidst the pressure and strategy, Daniel never stopped looking at Kate. The gaze a silent promise. No matter what, we will not be defeated. Kate returned a faint but sincere smile, holding back tears, feeling the strength drawn from love and protection. The media storm, Ricardo's past, the looming legal threat, they were far from over. But in this moment, deep in the night, with the city ablaze outside, Kate and Daniel stood strong, knowing they had found each other and would protect their little family with Sophie. The penthouse was bathed in soft yellow light, reflecting off the polished marble floors, yet the space now felt tense like an arena. Ricardo appeared at the doorway, his face icy, eyes sharp as razors. In his hands, he held a stack of files, legal documents, old evidence regarding custody rights. Hello, Kate. Daniel. Long time no see, Ricardo said, his voice low and sinister. Sophie slept soundly on the sofa, unwittingly caught in this power struggle. Daniel stepped forward, shielding Kate and Sophie with his tall frame. His eyes blazed with determination. Ricardo's smirk did not faze him. You're here, but let me warn you, no one harms her. Kate stood behind Daniel, her heart pounding, each breath stretched tight as if preparing for a life or death battle. Ricardo, we cannot let her bear the weight of your past. If you truly care, step back. Her voice trembled but held firm. The strength of maternal love made Ricardo hesitate for a moment. Ricardo let out a mocking laugh, placing the files on the table. You've always been so strong. But you know, the law doesn't always side with love or protection. He stepped closer, eyes glinting, probing for weakness. Daniel gripped Kate's hand. Hers trembled, but he held tighter, conveying strength and safety. We'll face everything together. No one is allowed to threaten her or you. Daniel emphasized, his tone commanding, forcing Ricardo to retreat slightly. Kate inhaled deeply, stepping closer to Ricardo, locking eyes with a resolve she had never known. You want custody of Sophie? Prove that you deserve it. If not, leave us in peace. Her words rang like a declaration of war, infused with love, protection, and a past long buried. Ricardo fell silent, a flicker of surprise and perhaps grudging respect crossing his eyes at Kate's resilience. Daniel lifted Sophie gently into his arms, his gaze meeting Ricardo's like a silent warning. She is our family, and I will not let anyone harm this family. In that moment, time seemed to freeze. The penthouse became a halo of love, protection, and inner strength. Ricardo realized that this time, power did not come from law or authority, but from the steadfast hearts of these two people and their love for an innocent child. Finally, Ricardo drew a long breath, gathering his files and withdrawing, his eyes still tinged with resentment, but no longer daring to confront them directly. Daniel placed Sophie back down, his gaze following Ricardo's retreating figure before returning to hold Kate tightly. Tears threatened to fall, but this time they were tears of relief. Freedom after the storm. Night enveloped the penthouse, the soft yellow lights casting a space that was both warm and tense. The living room, usually a haven of peace for Daniel and Kate, had become a battlefield of emotions. Ricardo stood before them, gripping the legal files, eyes cold and resolute. I won't leave until I have custody. His voice cut through the heavy silence of the room. Kate stepped back, fear creeping through her body. She hugged Sophie tightly, as if holding her daughter was enough to fend off all threats. Ricardo, Sophie is not a tool or a possession to fight over. She needs peace. She needs us, she replied, her voice shaking but resolute. Daniel moved forward, standing in front of them, his gaze sharp yet filled with unwavering determination. Listen, Ricardo, this isn't the time for cat and mouse games. If you want custody, you must prove it by respecting us, not by threats. His voice was deep, every word carving itself into Ricardo's mind. Sophie looked at her father, wide-eyed, breath-hitching. Daddy, don't let him take me away from Mommy. Her voice trembled, a mix of fear and pleading. Daniel bent down, holding her close. I'm here. I won't let anyone make you afraid. The tension weighed heavily on the three of them. Ricardo sneered lightly, but in his eyes flickered a hint of hesitation. Daniel seized the moment, stern yet overflowing with emotion. This is my family. If you cannot respect that, you have no place here. Ricardo took a long breath and finally released the files, a brief shadow of sadness crossing his face as he yielded. Fine. But I won't forget. This is only the beginning, he said, before turning and leaving. The room returned to quiet, leaving only the steady heartbeat of Daniel and the gentle breaths of Sophie. Kate cried, leaning her head on Daniel's shoulder, the tension, fear, and pressure dissolving. Thank you for protecting us, she whispered, voice choked. Daniel held her tightly, pressing his lips to her forehead, eyes soft yet determined. We've survived, and we will always survive. Sophie smiled faintly, running over to plant a kiss on both of them, making Daniel and Kate grin with happiness. In that moment, they realized that love and family were not always easy, but when faced together, any storm could be overcome. After Ricardo left, the penthouse settled into a strange stillness. The soft yellow lights reflected on the polished floors, creating interwoven patches of light and shadow, symbolizing past turbulence and the return of peace. Daniel sat on the sofa, holding Sophie, eyes never leaving her, ensuring no threat could approach. Kate stood by the window, gazing out at Manhattan, a million lights twinkling under the night sky. She took a deep breath, relief flowing through her, though traces of anxiety lingered the memory of Ricardo, and those tense months not easily forgotten. She turned, offering a tired but loving smile. We really made it through, didn't we? Daniel lifted his gaze to her, warm yet resolute. Yes, and from now on, no one can tear this little family apart. His voice was deep, etched into the quiet space. Sophie jumped from her father's lap to hug her mother, making them laugh. I'm not scared anymore. Mommy! Daddy and Mommy are here. In that moment, Daniel felt the power of love and family bond clearly. All the pressure, tension, and fear they had endured were now mere hazy clouds, unable to dim the light of the happiness spreading around them. He stepped forward, placing a hand on Kate's shoulder, looking straight into her eyes. We'll build a different future together, a future where Sophie is always loved, protected, and we can find ourselves again. Kate felt every heartbeat of Daniel, every calm but determined breath. She knew the man before her wasn't just a powerful CEO making billion-dollar decisions, but a man willing to sacrifice, protect, and love fully. I trust you, she whispered, tears streaming down her cheeks. Sophie looked at the two adults with eyes clear yet curiously understanding. She held her father's hand tightly, then pulled her mother close. We are family. Forever. Right. Daniel and Kate embraced her, the three of them standing in each other's arms, bathed in yellow light as if to preserve this perfect moment. That moment was proof that, no matter how challenging the past, the pressure, or those who tried to divide them, true love and family bonds always triumph, not through power, money, or threats, but through heart, patience, and the courage to face storms together. If you were Kate or Daniel, facing the challenges of the past, would you fight to protect your happiness? Or step back to avoid conflict? Share your feelings in the comments. Sometimes, the way we confront life's storms tells the story of love and family. Part 8, Courtroom, the decisive testimony. Inside the courtroom, silence hung heavily. Pale light streamed through the large windows, falling on the marble floor and casting faint streaks across the dark wooden benches. The tension in the air was so thick it felt almost tangible, like it could be cut with a knife. The rustle of papers, the whispered words of lawyers, and the soft gavel taps of the judge blended into a tense symphony of authority and pressure. Daniel stood upright in the center of the courtroom, his deep blue suit perfectly tailored, eyes shining with determination. His breathing was steady, though his heartbeat raced under the pressure. In front of him stood Kate, the woman he loved deeply. Her hands clenched, her eyes a mixture of worry and trust. And Sophie, the 6-year-old girl, sat in the child's seat, watching her father as if each of his breaths were a lifeline. Mr. Daniel Carter, please stand and give your testimony. The judge's voice rang out. Daniel flinched slightly, but immediately inhaled deeply. Regaining his composure, he stepped toward the witness stand, placing his hand on the microphone, feeling the weight of the moment, yet unable to quell his resolve. He looked at Kate, a faint smile flickering across his face. No words needed. His eyes conveyed the message. "I am here to protect you." Turning to the judge, Daniel said, "Your Honor, I know that today I am not just standing here as a witness, but as someone defending a person whom I believe deserves justice above all else." His voice resonated warmly, yet firmly, reaching everyone present. Kate is an extraordinary mother. I have witnessed her care for Sophie from the very beginning. She sacrifices, endures, and loves this little girl more than anyone else in the world. I speak not just as a friend, not just as a colleague, but as a man who has seen her love and devotion every single day. The courtroom grew so silent that each word Daniel spoke echoed, striking straight at the hearts of those present. He continued, "And I vow that Kate deserves custody of Sophie, not for personal reasons or material gain, but because she is her mother. She is truly family to this child." A few people in the courtroom couldn't hold back their emotions, eyes glistening. Daniel inhaled deeply once more, gazing at Sophie, her small hands tightly holding her mother's, lips trembling with tension. He lowered his head, a fierce resolve burning inside. No one would take away the happiness of this mother and daughter. For a moment, the courtroom was utterly still, only the soft rustle of papers and Daniel's steady breathing breaking the silence. In that instant, everyone could feel the power of love and trust. Some loves are strong enough to stand up and protect an entire family against every challenge. Outside the witness stand, Ricardo sat silently, his cold eyes piercing through his glasses. He could not hide his irritation as he listened to Daniel defend Kate. In that moment, the courtroom seemed to shrink, pressure bearing down on every soul present. Every word, every gesture became evidence. Every glance measured truth and justice. Daniel turned to Ricardo, his voice calm but cutting. "I know you want custody of Sophie, but that right isn't granted to those who demand it. It belongs to those deserving of love and responsibility." Ricardo furrowed his brow, shrugged, trying to maintain a composed facade. "You don't understand, Daniel. I have the rights. The law is on my side." Daniel shook his head gently, eyes still fixed on Kate and Sophie. "Rights are not just law, Ricardo. Rights are responsibility. They are love and protection. I have seen Kate give her entire heart to Sophie. I can testify to that." The judge tapped the gavel, signaling Daniel to continue. He inhaled deeply, closed his eyes for a moment, letting all his memories and emotions surge forth. He spoke of the days Kate cared for sick Sophie, the sleepless nights spent singing her to sleep, the times she shielded Sophie from danger. Each detail was vivid, touching the hearts of everyone in the courtroom. Ricardo's face flushed, trying to contain his anger as he listened to Daniel recount Kate's devoted love. He felt as though all his legal arguments were collapsing under the weight of the emotional evidence Daniel presented. Kate held Sophie's hand, eyes moist, a mixture of happiness and worry. She felt each of Daniel's words as solid bricks, building a wall, protecting the future of the two of them. Sophie looked at Daniel, wide-eyed, not fully understanding the legal meaning, yet sensing the love and protection. "Daddy," she whispered, as if offering thanks. Daniel turned to her, smiling, eyes full of affection. "I am always here for you, my little one." His words rang out not only as testimony in court, but as a promise, making the courtroom atmosphere heavy with emotion. The judge tapped the gavel once more, voice solemn. "Next, I would like to hear from the defense." But in that moment, Daniel felt the strength of love and faith prevailing, that justice is not only law, but a heart that knows right from wrong. The courtroom became so quiet that the soft flipping of papers echoed throughout. Daniel stepped up once more, this time not just to testify, but to speak for the heart, to speak for the days Kate and Sophie had endured together against every challenge. His gaze followed the mother and daughter, the mix of responsibility and love radiating so powerfully that everyone in the room was moved. He recounted nights when Sophie woke in the middle of the night, crying from nightmares. He spoke of Kate, alone but steadfast, holding her child, whispering words of comfort, singing until the girl finally slept. Each detail was painted vividly by Daniel's words, rendering the image of a devoted mother more alive than any legal evidence could. The judge furrowed his brow. Ricardo pressed his lips together, struggling to hide his discomfort. Yet no one could deny the emotional weight overflowing from every word Daniel spoke. He continued, slow yet precise. I know Kate is not perfect, but who is? What matters is how she loves, how she protects and cares for Sophie, things a child needs far more than any title or legal right. Kate squeezed Sophie's hand, eyes red and glistening. She felt Daniel not only defending her, but affirming the value of love and sacrifice, the very thing she once doubted about herself. Facing it alone, Sophie looked up at Daniel, her eyes shimmering. Daddy, I know Mom is okay. Right. Daniel smiled, his shoulders trembling slightly, but his heart overflowing with pride. That's right, sweetheart. Your mom will always be protected. Ricardo stood up, his voice tense. Unbelievable. These words. But the law isn't based on feelings. Daniel turned, his gaze steady. The law may not rely on emotions, but justice isn't just words on paper. It's also about doing what's right to protect lives that need love. A hush filled the courtroom, all eyes fixed on Daniel. At that moment, he knew his words had reached everyone's hearts, touching justice in a different way. Through truth and love, the judge struck the gavel. Voice solemn, the court will recess to deliberate. I will review your testimony along with all other evidence before issuing a decision. Kate looked at Daniel, her voice choked with emotion. Thank you for everything. Daniel lowered his head, eyes shining. I will always be here. I will never leave you and your daughter. Sophie ran up to hug Daniel, her voice soft but brimming with joy. Daddy, I love you. The courtroom resumed after the recess. Light from the windows shone across the well-tailored suits, yet the atmosphere remained heavy, as if the air itself carried the weight of tension. The judge returned, voice deep. I have reviewed all the evidence, testimonies, and relevant circumstances. Daniel held Kate's hand tightly. Little Sophie, clinging to her mother's leg, eyes glistening. Ricardo stood there, forcing a smile, but Daniel noticed the lingering irritation and confusion in his eyes. Kate held her breath, her heart racing as if about to leap from her chest. After careful consideration, the judge continued. The court decides that custody of Sophie will be granted to her mother, Kate, with the current father, Daniel Carter, having rights to supervise and directly assist in important decisions concerning the child. In that moment, the room seemed to freeze. Daniel looked at Kate, eyes red, his heart ready to burst. He gently squeezed her hand. Did you hear that? We won. Kate trembled, tears streaming, a smile both fearful and elated forming on her face. Oh my God, Sophie. She turned to her daughter, hugging Sophie tightly. You don't have to worry anymore, sweetheart. Mom will always protect you. Sophie jumped onto her mother's shoulders, her voice small but firm. I know Mom and Dad will always be with me. Daniel smiled at both of them, heart brimming with happiness. I will always be here whenever you need me. Ricardo left the courtroom in silence. No more yelling or threats. People inside the room looked at Daniel and Kate with surprise and admiration. Some legal staff quietly shed tears, witnessing a family standing strong after the storm. Kate held Daniel, voice choked. "Thank you, not just for today, but for everything you've done for us." Daniel bent down, lightly kissing her forehead. "I promise, from now on, nothing will hurt you and Sophie again." At that moment, the courtroom became silent, but filled with emotion, as if every heartbeat in unison with theirs. Daniel realized that love and trust don't just change a child's life. They restore faith in humanity in the eyes of everyone around. As the courtroom began to empty, Daniel remained beside Kate and Sophie, holding her hand tightly, unwilling to let go. His heart still raced, but now it was a different feeling. Relief and hope. Little Sophie ran up, exclaiming, "Daddy! Mommy! Let's go home." Kate bent down, wrapping her arms around her daughter. She felt the warmth radiating from Daniel's hand on her back, a warmth that dissolved all previous fears. "Sophie, from now on, we won't be afraid anymore." "Okay," Kate said, voice trembling but resolute. Sophie nodded, eyes bright, her innocent smile soothing the wounds in both adults' hearts. Daniel looked around the courtroom, his gaze settling on every small detail. The pen left on the desk, scattered papers, the footsteps of court staff. Each detail reminded him of the journey he had endured, the sleepless nights, urgent phone calls, and the times he had to be strong to protect Kate and Sophie. He exhaled, the heavy weight slowly melting, replaced by warmth spreading through his chest. "I don't know what else to say except thank you," Kate whispered, eyes following Daniel, filled with trust. Daniel bent down, softly kissing her lips, a brief kiss containing all unspoken words. "You don't need to thank me," he replied, voice deep and warm. "I just want you both to know that I will always be here. No matter what happens." This moment became more sacred than ever as Daniel reached out, embracing Kate and Sophie completely. Sophie's small laughter echoed in the vast space, dispelling all lingering tension. People around them watched silently, their eyes filled with empathy and admiration. Leaving the courthouse, Daniel opened the car door, letting Kate and Sophie sit in the back. Little Sophie rested her head on Daniel's shoulder, whispering, "Daddy, I love you." Daniel smiled, gently squeezing her hand. "I love you too, Sophie. I promise no one will ever hurt you and your mom." On the drive home, the sunset streamed through the car windows, bathing all three in golden light. The space was quiet, yet full of emotion, as if the entire city of Manhattan paused to witness this small, yet profoundly meaningful moment. Daniel felt that, in the end, he had won not with power or money, but with heart and patience to protect the ones he loved. Have you ever faced a choice where you had to protect someone you love and a child ready to sacrifice everything to do so? If it were you, what would you choose? Share your feelings in the comments. I'd love to hear your story. Fawn 9. The surprise proposal. The penthouse rooftop shimmered with soft golden lights, cascading across the city like a flowing silk ribbon, embracing Manhattan at night. The streets below glimmered, but nothing compared to the wild beating of Daniel's heart. He stood before the glass railing, a small velvet box in hand, his eyes a mixture of anticipation and resolve. This was the moment he had been dreaming of, the instant to transform the fragile happiness of Kate and Sophie into something eternal. Sophie, mischievous and sharp, peeked out from behind the sofa, her radiant smile revealing her role as the secret co-conspirator, having helped Daniel plan every detail of the proposal. She clutched a white ribbon, the tool meant to hide surprises from Kate, and her eyes sparkled as she looked at Daniel, silently saying, "Dad, I know you're doing the right thing. Kate stepped out from the glass doors, her hair curling softly in the light, her cream dress swaying gently with each step. She had no idea what awaited her, but curiosity and joy coursed through her. "Daniel, why did you want me out here at this hour?" she asked, her voice trembling yet full of love. Daniel turned, a warm smile spreading across his face. "Kate, can you stand still for a moment?" He moved closer and dropped to one knee under the soft glow of the rooftop lights, the city night as a backdrop. Sophie squealed quietly in delight, bridging the space between her parents. Daniel opened the velvet box, revealing a sparkling diamond ring that caught the light and reflected every shared moment they had lived together. "Kate, from the moment you entered my life, I knew you were everything, not just a partner, but the family I had always longed for. Will you marry me, and together with Sophie, build a complete, loving family?" Daniel's voice trembled slightly as his eyes locked onto hers. Kate was speechless, tears streaming down her cheeks, her heart overwhelmed with happiness and long-held emotions. Sophie jumped up, hugging her mother tightly. "Mom, you have to say yes. We'll be a real family." Time seemed to pause, the soft whisper of the wind through her hair, the twinkling lights, the beating hearts of the three of them in sync. Daniel smiled, holding up the ring, his eyes shining with unwavering faith. The rooftop seemed to vanish around Kate, leaving only her gaze fixed on Daniel, the man who had patiently navigated every storm to be with her. Her heart raced, memories and pent-up emotions spilling over. Sophie stood nearby, gripping the white ribbon tightly, her eyes bright with excitement. She winked at Daniel, silently urging, "Make this a moment we'll never forget." Daniel drew a deep breath, his voice trembling but firm. "Kate, I love you. I love your smile, the way you care for Sophie, the way you make every part of my life meaningful. I need nothing else but to be with you, to build a full, loving family together." Kate lowered her head, trying to control the tears, recalling lonely nights, financial pressures, societal judgments, and times she nearly gave up. But now, all of it melted away in the face of Daniel's sincere, all-encompassing love. Sophie couldn't contain herself any longer. She jumped up, beaming. "Mom, you have to say yes. I'll dance across this rooftop if you say no." Daniel chuckled, lifting Sophie onto his shoulders, his gaze warm and loving toward Kate. In that moment, the three of them became the center of their own universe, untouchable, inseparable. Kate exhaled softly and took Daniel's hand. Yes, I'll marry you. We'll, together." Her voice quivered, choked with joy. Daniel could no longer restrain himself. He pulled Kate into his embrace, wrapping both her and Sophie in his arms. They stood there together, under the soft golden lights, as if the world itself applauded this small but deeply loving family. Sophie laughed gleefully, jumping from Daniel's shoulders and running around the rooftop. "I'm going to be the best little maid of honor." Daniel and Kate looked at each other, laughing and teary-eyed. From this moment on, every past hardship and trial seemed to dissolve, leaving only a new beginning, full and overflowing with love. The city lights below twinkled like 1,000 stars, celebrating this moment of happiness. Kate could not let go of Daniel, tears of joy streaming down her cheeks, while Sophie danced and cheered, shouting, "Mom and Dad are really getting married. I knew it." Daniel held Kate's hand tightly, presenting the ring once more. "Kate, I've kept this ring since we weathered every storm, waiting for today, the day I could no longer wait. Will you be my wife?" His voice trembled and rang with certainty, carrying all his love and unwavering faith. Kate lowered her head briefly, then met his gaze. I do. I'll be your wife." care for Sophie with you, and face every storm together." Her words echoed across the vast rooftop, silencing the world around them, leaving only the love that enveloped them. Sophie could no longer contain herself, jumping onto Daniel's shoulders, clapping and cheering. "Dad, you're amazing." I'm the best partner in crime." Daniel laughed, kissed Sophie's hair, then bent to kiss Kate. Time seemed to freeze. All worries, struggles, and misunderstandings vanished, leaving only pure love and happiness. Kate rested against Daniel's shoulder, inhaling the familiar scent, feeling both safety and complete joy. I used to think I didn't deserve this happiness. But now, I know love truly can heal everything." Her voice choked, yet her eyes sparkled as if proclaiming to the world, "We will move forward together." Daniel whispered, "I will always protect us. No one, nothing can tear this family apart." He held Kate tightly, and the three of them stood beneath the golden lights, Sophie's laughter echoing. Her arms wrapped around both. Everything else faded away, leaving three hearts beating in perfect harmony with the rhythm of happiness. Part 10. The Wedding and a True Family. The penthouse rooftop was adorned in dazzling white and gold, the lights sparkling like tiny stars surrounding three people standing at the heart of love. Fresh flowers lined the aisle, their subtle fragrance blending with the night breeze, carrying the salty scent of the city. Yet in this space, everything felt unusually peaceful and warm. Kate wore a pure white wedding gown, clutching her bouquet, her eyes sparkling as she looked at Daniel. He stood in a sleek black suit, but his gaze wasn't for the congratulatory messages or the twinkling lights around him. It was only for her, the woman who had weathered every storm, to be by his side. Sophie stood beside them, holding the wedding rings, her eyes bright as an angel, witnessing a historic moment. As the music began, Daniel bent down slightly, gently taking Kate's hand. "Kate, today we officially step into a new chapter. Are you ready?" His voice carried both seriousness and overwhelming love, leaving Kate momentarily breathless. "I'm ready, Daniel." "Ready for everything we will face together," she replied, her voice trembling yet certain. Tears rolled down her cheeks, not of sorrow, but of joy, long held after years of waiting. Sophie jumped up, shouting, "Mom and Dad are really married. I'm the most important accomplice." When the officiant read the vows, all three held hands tightly, their hearts beating in unison. Daniel took a deep breath, looking straight into Kate's eyes. "I promise to always be a steadfast support, to love you, and to protect us both, you and Sophie, for the rest of my life." Kate lowered her head, eyes red, but her smile was radiant. "I also promise to always be with you, through storms or calm." Sophie clasped both their hands, shouting, "Now we're a real family. I can call you Dad. I can call you Mom, and we'll never be apart." Her cheer echoed across the rooftop, bringing smiles and tears to every guest. That moment was no ordinary wedding. It was a living testament to love that transcends trials, misunderstandings, and distance. Night gradually fell, and the golden lights of Parker Tower's penthouse shimmered like a miniature galaxy. The city's hurried rhythm seemed to pause below, leaving only three people at the center, hand in hand, hearts beating as one. Sophie, small yet confident, pulled them into her little circle. "Mom, Dad, I want to dance with both of you." Daniel looked at Kate, a gentle smile spreading across his face, silently saying he was happy to yield to Sophie's playful joy. Kate nodded, holding Sophie's hands tightly, and the three began to dance to the soft melody. But the moment was more than joy. In Daniel's eyes, memories flooded back, failures, tough decisions balancing career and heart, tears shed thinking completeness might never come. Now, with Sophie laughing freely, with Kate peacefully leaning against him, all of it seemed to vanish. He whispered in her ear, "I used to fear we'd never reach this moment, but now I know true love never abandons us." Kate looked at Daniel, her eyes shimmering with happiness, her smile gentle yet full of emotion. "You didn't give up, Daniel, and neither did I. We've overcome everything, and now we truly belong to each other." Sophie jumped, shouting gleefully, "I'm the greatest accomplice in Mom and Dad's love story." The three embraced tightly, hearts synchronized. The world around seemed to vanish. Only laughter, music, and the sparkling light on Kate's and Daniel's hair remained. In that instant, every guest felt the radiating energy of love, a rare, serene warmth. After their first steps, the soft, golden rooftop lights painted their glowing faces. But Daniel paused for a moment, looking down at Sophie's tight grip on his hand. At that moment, he realized the most important things weren't million-dollar contracts or tense meetings. It was the innocent laughter of this little girl, his daughter, who never imagined she'd have the chance to call him Dad. Sophie looked at Daniel with trusting eyes, her voice pure and clear. "Dad, I want to sleep with you tonight." Daniel smiled, overwhelmed with emotion, unable to speak. He bent down, kissed her forehead, and said, "All right, my little princess, Dad will always be here." His tight embrace seemed to melt away all worries and fatigue as he felt her heartbeat merge with his, a heartbeat of the family he had always dreamed of. Kate stood beside him, tears in her eyes, holding Daniel's hand, her voice choked with emotion. "We've been through so much, but finally, we have each other. You, me, and now, him too." Daniel looked into her eyes, full of love. "I will never lose the two most important people in my life again. You've been so strong. You've taught me to soften my heart. Thank you for staying." Sophie shrugged playfully, smiling. "So from now on, Mom, Dad, and I will never leave each other again, right?" Daniel and Kate answered in unison, "That's right, darling." The three continued their gentle dance, slower this time, as if wanting to stretch this happy moment forever. Around the rooftop, the lights reflected on bottles of wine, fresh flowers, and a white cloth draped along the railing, creating a scene both romantic and warm. Every second of the night was filled with joy, forgiveness, and hope. Daniel silently thought that even if the whole world turned its back, this little family would always be the safest haven, a place that healed all wounds. Time seemed to stop on the rooftop in that moment. A soft breeze tousled Kate's hair. Sophie laughed freely, and Daniel stood between them, eyes glowing with the full happiness he once thought existed only in dreams. The warm golden lights shone down, reflecting off Kate's white dress today. With Sophie's innocent laughter, it became a symbol of forgiveness, love, and second chances. Sophie jumped onto Daniel's shoulders, hugging his neck tightly, shouting, "Dad, I love you the most in the world." Daniel sat down on the floor, holding Sophie close, feeling her tiny heartbeat merge with his. Kate approached, placing her hand on Daniel's shoulder. Her voice choked, "I'm no longer afraid. We've overcome everything. And now, all I want is to see these two happy." Daniel looked deeply into her eyes, seeing their past, the storms, and the trust in the future. He kissed Kate's forehead softly, a kiss full of a lifetime promise. The rooftop came alive as the music played, a gentle song Sophie had chosen earlier. She pulled them to dance, twirling around as if wanting this moment to last forever. Daniel and Kate looked at each other, laughing through tears, feeling everything become unexpectedly light. No work pressures, no shadows of the past, only love, trust, and family. The climax arrived when Sophie suddenly tossed a handful of gold and silver confetti into the air. Tiny pieces fluttered, reflecting the twinkling lights like a mini fireworks display, celebrating love and reunion. Daniel watched, overwhelmed with emotion. All my life, I searched for this, and now I've found it. You and Sophie, you are my whole world. Kate smiled, kissed him, and the three embraced, dancing amid the confetti, music, lights, happiness, and completeness. If you were in that moment, what would you feel first? Joy, amazement, or emotion? Do you believe that, after all the storms, love and true family can be reborn, stronger than ever? Share your thoughts in the comments to help spread faith in second chances in love. The wedding night was bathed in an enchanting glow, the twinkling golden lights on the penthouse terrace mingling with the soft breeze that caressed Kate's hair. Music floated through the air, gentle yet overflowing with emotion, blending with Sophie's bright, joyful laughter. The little girl held Daniel's hand tightly, pulling him into a lively rhythm, her eyes sparkling with happiness. Kate stood beside them, smiling, watching the two of them, feeling in her heart the completeness she had longed for all these years. Daniel wrapped his arms around Kate from behind, resting his head on her shoulder, whispering, "You know, all the storms, all the challenges, only taught me that nothing is more precious than you two." Kate turned to him, her eyes glistening with tears, yet full of joy. "And you never let us go." The emotional crescendo came when Sophie jumped onto Daniel's shoulders, raising her little arms like a tiny warrior who had conquered every challenge. Daniel bent down, kissing her forehead, and together, the three of them held hands, dancing to the music under the shimmering lights. Each step, each laugh seemed to chase away every worry, every fear, every misunderstanding that had ever existed. The terrace became their private world, a place where love, trust, and a complete family rose above all barriers. They danced, they laughed, they embraced, and in that moment, Daniel, Kate, and Sophie realized that true happiness is not perfection, but daring to love, to trust, and to walk together through everything. Kate lifted Sophie down and placed her on her shoulders. The three of them stood amid the sparkling lights, gazing out at the distant city. Daniel whispered, "We have each other, and that is everything." Sophie looked up, her eyes shining. "Daddy, Mommy, we're really a family now." True love is not limited by time, social status, or misunderstandings. It is patience, trust, and the courage to forgive and love fully. Family is not only born of blood, but of hearts willing to stay, to weather storms together, and to laugh in peace. Do you believe in second chances in love? Have you ever faced challenges that forced you to choose between letting go or holding on? Share your stories, your feelings, and your thoughts in the comments so we can spread the belief that true love and family are always worth fighting for and cherishing.